The most controversial Star Wars director, Rian Johnson, says he's spoken to Dave Filoni about directing an episode of The Mandalorian and is even interested in doing it in the future. Will this happen? Let's talk about it.
Have you seen Star Wars?
I think about a month or two ago, Rian Johnson did this Zoom call. It was a Q&A with this author, and she's been revealing more and more information over the course of probably every few weeks about what happened in that interview and what Rian Johnson said. And recently, she talked about the possibility of him being in The Mandalorian and being a director for The Mandalorian. And here is the statement from the author herself. She says, "I asked Rian if he'd ever considered doing an episode of The Mandalorian. He said he was dying to, but that for him, it's all about scheduling. He's been writing Knives Out too, and now he's going directly into filming it. So it would be a matter of finding time to break away and do it. He said he has spoken to Dave Filoni about it. He had gone and visited the set during season 1. He said it was so cool, and I told him I was very jealous. He had seen Baby Yoda months before the reveal. He said it was fascinating seeing the way they're shooting the show. He asked if I'd seen the behind-the-scenes stuff. Of course I have. He said when he was standing there in that space and they did the thing where they moved the camera and the perspective on the screen shifted, he said he almost fell over. You get vertigo. That it's like virtual reality, that it's fascinating, and it feels so real when you're standing there. It's really interesting to see how it translates on screen." Okay, so that's the end of the quote. It sounds like scheduling is the big if factor here, and truth be told, I think Rian could easily direct an episode of The Mandalorian, but with season 3 and the timetable set in front of us, he would literally have to be on set tomorrow. Like, he would have to get there so soon. So he's been writing the script for Knives Out 2 since the beginning of 2020. So he's pretty far along in that process right now and should be close to completion. I mean, if production for this starts in June, I mean, he should be done by now. Filming for Knives Out starts in June of this year, and production on The Mandalorian Season 3 should start this month in April, later this month. So that's a 2-month window Rian has to show up and make an episode. But if he does direct an episode, how do you think fans will react? Truth be told, I think the best course of action is trying to get Rian to direct an episode, but not reveal it until the day the episode airs, if that's even possible. I mean, imagine you just watched what is widely considered a good episode of The Mandalorian, and at the end of the credits, it says, directed by Rian Johnson. I think a lot of fans would not only be surprised, but fans who hate Rian Johnson because of The Last Jedi may feel a little perplexed on how to feel because Rian directed an episode of The Mandalorian that they liked. And that may be a little bit of an oversimplification on why some fans don't like Rian Johnson. I'm sure some people consider him a bad director, but personally, I don't think he's a bad director. I don't like The Last Jedi at all, but that's largely due to the writing from Rian Johnson, not so much of the directing. If we're talking about directing, I do think The Last Jedi has probably the best cinematography that we've seen in Star Wars. Also, his movies like Looper and Knives Out are both really solid movies to watch, and I think that the directing in those movies are really good. Yet again, it kind of comes to the writing that is my problem. Plus, Rian directed 2 episodes of Breaking Bad, so he's used to television. One of the episodes was The Fly, which was considered, one of the worst in my opinion, but also he considered one of the last episodes, which was considered the best hour in television. But that's how Rian Johnson likes to do things. He wants people to hate it and love it. So I think with all that having been said, Rian Johnson directing an episode of The Mandalorian may do more good than it would do harm. First off, Jon Favreau is writing the series, so we won't have to worry about Rian's writing being an issue in this situation. Also, the fandom is kind of 50-50 on Rian Johnson, so you do have a lot of people who hate Rian Johnson for The Last Jedi, but you also have a lot of people who do love him for that movie. And then there are people in the middle who are like me, who don't really like his Star Wars movie, but will admit that he is a solid director. So if he directs an episode of The Mandalorian, I think 2 things will be accomplished. The first will be getting into the good graces of the Star Wars fandom. He's in murky water with Star Wars fans, and if he comes back and directs a great episode of The Mandalorian, then I think a lot of fans will be a little bit more forgiving to the idea of him directing his own trilogy, but I'm saying directing, I'm not saying writing. Plus, we know Lucasfilm has a history of taking directors from The Mandalorian and putting them in future projects and kind of giving them bigger roles at Lucasfilm and being Star Wars creators. So maybe Rian makes a good episode and Lucasfilm sees this as an opportunity to continue working with him and bring him in for more projects like his supposed Star Wars trilogy that we never really know what's going on with. But tell me your thoughts in the comment section below. Do you think Rian Johnson should direct an episode of The Mandalorian? Truth be told, it doesn't seem likely. June and April are really close together, and we're already halfway through April, and from what I've heard from the people working on The Mandalorian, they're wrapping up things for the Book of Boba Fett, and they're basically gearing up to make The Mandalorian right now. Like, they're finishing props and everything. So I think that means we're probably not going to see an episode of Season 3 directed by Rian Johnson, but Season 4 is always a possibility. Thank you all for watching. If you like this video, please give it a like or leave a comment because it does help out the channel. If you enjoy Star Wars Only, become an Only fan by subscribing to the channel to stay up to date on the latest news in Star Wars. I'm Star Wars Only. I will see you all next time, and may the Force be with you always.